Alright, so I was shooting this video and my friend's neighbor came over and interrupted the video, so I'm just going to run through this real quick. I just basically wanted to show everybody this. I've done a lot of searching on YouTube before I started building this truck. Couldn't find anything that's been modified besides some donked out 26-inch rims, basically lifted up in the air. This is a four-wheel drive 2001 GMC Sonoma 4.3 liter. Still utilizes its four-wheel drive system. It's slammed 6 inches in back and well, 5.5 inches in back and 3 inches in front. Can go about an inch and a half lower in front, but daily driving this thing, I mean, it's low enough. I didn't trust my ball joints and everything. I really didn't want to, you know, ruin the truck driving it every day. Tinted windows, 30%, you know, I just did the strip up top. 18-inch KMC Rockstars, the car version. 245/40 18s. Polyurethane sway bar bushings and end links, polyurethane engine mounts. Cold air intake, plugs, wires, you know, the usual performance stuff, nothing too special. But when I got this truck, when it was bone stock, I had a shell on it. I really didn't want to do much to it, and honestly I love it now. I've had a couple of the slam trucks, a couple big lifted trucks. So far this one's my favorite. Built this tonneau cover for it. Believe it or not, that's built out of MDF board, 3/4 inch. Basically used about 20 freaking cans of Plasti Dip and coated the thing in rubber after I got all the pieces cut, you know, precisely. See all these gaps? So basically, I mean, it's been holding up for the past 4 or 5 months in Salt Lake City weather, and it's doing pretty well. Spent about $265 building it, you know, all the supplies, and I didn't have a saw, a couple other things. I mean, turned out pretty well. What do you think? Locks in the back. Each piece actually keeps the next piece in via aluminum angle iron, or aluminum angle, whatever you want to call it. Extreme roll pan, picked up for 20 bucks locally. Nothing too special. Basically it was wrecked. This isn't a sport decal, or whatever you want to call it. Some guy pulled up to me the other day asking me why I didn't decal the other side. But really it's just primered because it got banged up on this other side. You couldn't see it with the bumper on, but there was a big old dent behind that bumper. Its previous owner actually backed into a mailbox. Got a couple subs in it and Kenwood XL on deck. Nothing too fancy. Future plans. I'm gonna be shaving all the door handles, suicide hood, suicide rear doors. That should be pretty interesting. Be shaving the tailgate. Basically, I mean, I haul a family in this thing, so when I'm not privileged to drive the wife's car, this is what I drive. So I mean, it's still got to stay semi-functional. One day, if it's ever show ready, you know, I'll uncrank the torsion keys up front and get it a little bit lower. That's one thing I didn't cover. 3-inch torsion keys up front, just El Cheapo Spring Tech, I believe. You know, they worked fine for what they do. 4-inch blocks in back, well, pieces of junk really. And then I mono-leafed it, pulled a leaf and got it a little bit lower. It's got air shocks on it so I could air it up a little bit. Ride's pretty nice overall. DJM front shocks. Basically was looking for the stiffest shocks possible. Keep this thing all the way to the four-wheel drive with the lowering keys. Needed it to handle as good as possible. Before I put the shocks on, I mean, the thing freaking handled like a boat. But now it's doing pretty good. Future plans, besides the suicide doors and everything, I'll be changing out the entire rear suspension. 3-inch drop leafs, and then I have 2.5-inch JTR blocks and setback plates, and maybe get some shims, try to shim it up a bit. It's actually pretty difficult to get this thing perfect. I had to space up the transfer case about, I'd say 3/8 of an inch. In doing that, It helped out a little bit as far as pinion angle. Problem is the transfer case points down and it's 2 inches lower than the rear diff, which points straight out. I mean, no matter how much pinion you the pinion shims you put in there, it's still gonna vibrate like shit. So I had to lift up the transfer case a bit, and that seemed to help. Then shortly after, I found out that I broke my motor mounts, so I just upgraded them to polyurethane, and no vibrations so far. Four-wheel drive works great. When I first did it, I got up to Alta Ski Resort and just bowled through the snow. Now, it pushes the snow better than driving on it. But, I mean, it does pretty good. It's definitely not a four-wheel drive that you'd want to take through a foot of snow. But at least you know if there's, a peace of mind if there's a couple inches on the ground. You can get home safely, and if the old lady and the kids are in the car, you're not with them to, help them out down the road, they could just push that button and go on down the road in the snow. We live up on campus, and I mean, there's some treacherous hills. People wrap their freaking Jeeps around light poles all the time, and this thing just balls right around them. No problem. Any questions as far as slamming your 4x4, let me know. You might want to check out S10 for them also. What's up, guys? They have a lot of good information, although most of the information didn't really help me. But the good news is slamming 4x4s in the last few months has really skyrocketed. I mean, I went from knowing nobody doing it. The second I did this, I found out while I was doing this 10 other guys were doing it. None of them have crew cabs, they all have blazers. But there's quite a bit more information on lowering these 4x4s nowadays versus just 6 months ago. So check it out, or you can just get a hold of me and I'll try to answer your questions as good as possible. Hopefully as soon as I get the suicide doors done, then I got to figure out what kind of paint I'm throwing on it. Messing around with the California style, off-whites, maybe some lime greens, purples. I want something out of the ordinary, but I want something that's still not screaming pull me over, So I guess I'll tackle the paint issue once I get to it. Soon to come. Hopefully my hood gets here soon. I know cowl induction hoods aren't cool unless you got something to back it up, but whatever. Let me know if you got any questions, guys.